We are on a mission.
A mission to save and revitalize independent pharmacy.
On the Catalyst Pharmacy podcast,
You will get actionable business advice
hear stories from industry leaders,
and share a laugh with us.
fuel your passion for pharmacy.
One conversation at a time.
Good morning, Debbie.
Good morning, Debbie.
I've met you before and learned a little bit about your history, the history of Puerto Rico, and how you kind of came up through it. So I was super excited about
Okay, well,
our time together.
I want to hear about Puerto Rico. I don't know
today.
about Puerto Rico. Jeff's got the
We can
inside
just do the whole
scoop.
thing in Spanish if you want.
Oh, Marsha might. That would be a trick.
I might understand a little bit.
Un poquito.
Poquito. Un poquito.
Yeah, Marsha's been doing the Duolingo. Are you still doing it?
Yes, I am.
What week streak are you?
I'm on 260 something days.
Right.
But no,
Does that mean you learned 260 words?
No, that
For
means
free?
she can say I
think
bought an
I'm
orange for
not-
$5.
No, so I started learning Spanish 3 months before we went to Barcelona and Madrid. And I'm like, okay, I need to at least know how to, look at the menu and make my way around a little more other than just going, hey, baño, cerveza, which is what Jeff was pretty much doing.
No, I was just doing
Well, if you
doing
go-
Mas Vino is what I was doing. Or Uno Mas.
Well, if you go to Spain, you have to say cerveza because they speak a very different Spanish.
Actually, it's
Cerveza.
tinto de verano. No, we were ordering a lot of tinto. But it was interesting because I got 3 months in and I was just heavily crammed. And then Barcelona, it's Catalan and Italian. Like you walk in and I'm going, una mesa para dos, por favor. And they're going, okay, do you want Spanish, English, or French menu? And I'm like, English, please. But then when we took the train to Madrid, I'm going una mesa para dos, and they're speaking Spanish, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting a little bit of poco. But I managed.
That's the risk. If you put a little Spanish out there, you get a lot back.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like, okay. No.
Yeah, my husband was taking pictures and using Google Translate to read the menu, which was pretty impressive because he's like,
Yeah.
but it's still Spanish. I'm like, babe, some of these words we see on Spanish menus or Italian.
Yeah, they are Spanish.
Yes, in Mexican restaurants here in Texas, and I'm like, what frijoles is. So it was a lot of fun. It was really good food.
So what you're saying, so like the Spanish, the Puerto Rico Spanish is very different from like the Madrid Spanish?
It is.
Yeah. It's accent. The accent is
Mhm.
very different.
Yep.
No matter where you go in the Spanish-speaking world, you get some pretty huge variations
Yep.
on the accent. Like if you go to Argentina and Chile, you get what I call the zhuzh. You get a lot of zhuzh in
Uh-huh.
there. If you go to Spain, you get the lispy.
More lispy. Okay.
Yeah. And then there's always like word swaps, but not really dialects. Like, you hear about the, like if you go to China, there's something like 23 different dialects and they can barely
Interesting.
understand each other. But in Spanish, it's like 95% of the words and the construction, everything's the
Yeah.
same. You just have a few word swaps here and there. Like, let's see. In Mexico, they say hongos for mushroom. In Puerto Rico, they say setas. So you may not get the mushroom pizza if you go to one country
Yeah,
or
and
the other. They may not understand, but even then, they typically understand.
Like banana was different. Also, like in Argentina, it's one way, and in Spain, it's pronounced another way, right? I think banana was
Yeah.
a word that had two different, like in different.
Banana.
I don't remember.
So do you find places where the accent is so thick you just can't understand it? Not the word swap, but just the accent?
No, I mean, my Spanish, I think, has gotten to the point where I could probably
Straight up.
go anywhere and understand pretty well. It's a lot, different places have different velocity. Some places
Right.
they speak very quickly. The
Kinda
combination of speaking really quickly
London and Scotland.
and some accent, and the fact that I've been 5-6 6 years almost now back in the States, definitely a little bit more rusty. So that might depend.
Yeah, because I was like, went to Scotland and they were speaking English, I believe. But the accent was so thick.
So thick.
You were really like, they might as well. I was picking out about as many words as I picked up in Madrid, from the Spanish. So interesting. So you started out. Take us just through a little bit of your career. Super interesting. Just kind of how you've traveled and got to where you are today.
Sure. You might be surprised to hear that I started my career in banking. That was my first job out of college. I worked there long enough to know that I did not want to be a banker. So I went back to business school full time and went in the marketing direction. So I started out with kind of a traditional brand management job, the company that makes Lysol brand products. So very, very traditional household cleaners. With that company, I actually moved to Puerto Rico. And that was like 28 years ago. I went there for what was supposed to be just a 6 or 8 week project. And I ended up staying there for 23 years.
Wow.
You never know. One of my themes whenever I talk to people early in their career is to, raise your hand, volunteer for things. I was literally at a cocktail party with my superiors at the time, and they were talking about a little bit of a crisis that needed some management and a volunteer to kind of sort things out in Puerto Rico. And I just was like, I'll go, send me. And that was a Thursday night. And on Monday, I was on a plane.
Oh, wow.
And my family, we were snow skiers, and we never vacationed in warm places or went to the Caribbean or anything like that. So I literally had to look at, the American Way magazine to figure out where I was going when I was on the plane already. But I figured, hey, it's 6 weeks, 8 weeks. It was October, cold months were coming up. I said, I can do anything for 6 or 8 weeks, especially when the company's kind of paying for it. So I made the most of it. And my colleagues at the time were very gracious, invited me to parties. Christmas time is very fun, Puerto Rico. So I got to experience that. Nice. And through some friends, like friends of friends, I kind of met a nice circle of people. In that circle is my now husband. So
wow, okay. That's what I was wondering. Did you meet your husband there?
We met early on. And his uncle had a really nice sailboat, and I was a sailor, so that was like a really great hook for him to use. We went with like 6-8 people each weekend sailing, sometimes racing.
Oh wow!
In the Caribbean. I mean, like it just like really doesn't get much better than that.
Sounds like a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the work was also great. I realized that when you go to an environment where it's kind of a small country, there's less resources, everybody has to do a little bit of everything. So whereas in brand management, you just have, one brand, you're intensely focused on your one brand. I had to work with the whole portfolio for the whole company. So I started learning really fast. And obviously it was very challenging to do marketing in my wasn't really even my second language at that point. I really didn't know a word of Spanish.
Wow.
So I was a marketeer trying to market in a foreign language. But we were doing a lot of adapting of the campaigns and things from the States, and worked with a great ad agency. So that ended up turning into kind of a more permanent assignment. I actually got moved there with the company, lasted a couple of years, and then the company was sold. So I had the option of coming back to the States, but aforementioned boyfriend was becoming a little more serious at the time. And I decided I would, just look for a job, and that's how I ended up in healthcare. I landed a job with Johnson & Johnson, who was at the time just opening up their medical device business.
Wow.
So I was
good time to get in.
Yeah, I was in the early group of employees that were hired to run kind of an umbrella company for all the different medical devices. So we're talking about sutures, laparoscopes, clinical diagnostics, cardiology division. So very hardcore, medical device.
Yeah. And in Spanish.
And in Spanish. At the time, we sold to surgeons. That was really our customer. And in Puerto Rico, you really can't finish your degree as a surgeon unless you, go get your, years of internship and fellowship. So almost every surgeon will go to the States at some point, and they have to pass boards in English. So suffice it to say, surgeons are bilingual in Puerto Rico. So the Spanish was not as much of a challenge, but after just a couple years, my responsibility expanded to all of Central America and the Caribbean. So I started traveling really extensively all across Central America to the Dominican Republic. And those immersion programs where you could go like live with a family and immerse yourself for a week or two to really learn a language. Well, like that was my life every day.
Oh, wow.
I would have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with customers, travel with sales reps who didn't speak English. So I, really, really got my Spanish language foundation from the job, from those couple of years of traveling so extensively in those countries. And it was just a fantastic opportunity. I used to go on the road for 2 weeks at a time, and I would stay on the weekends and travel around, Guatemala, Panama, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, the English-speaking islands. So it was a lot of fun. I've been to pretty much all those countries, many, many times. But I'll have a friend say, "Oh, have you gone to this resort or that resort?" I'll be like, "No, I pretty much only know where the hospitals are, hospitals, cities, hotels. I didn't get to go to the the 5-star resorts very often."
Wow.
So then what brought you back to the States?
Hold on. Sometime in the Puerto Rico, she had kids. My guess, right?
Oh, that's right. No,
got married.
Okay.
Probably sound like 23 years. You probably raised your kids.
The boyfriend became serious.
I did.
And
in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
How many kids?
We eventually got married, and I have 2 kids. They were born and raised in Puerto Rico, so they are, that sort of envious bilingual, multicultural kind of kid, which I think you find more and more these days. Kids have these interesting opportunities that in our very mobile society, right? But yeah, I mean, it's a great place to raise kids. It's very different, like culturally, they are Puerto Rican. That is how they identify themselves, and they did have both now come to the U.S. for college, and it's pretty much like any other international kid. They were all learning things for the first time about customs and things, and it's just funny because in the Latin world and most of the European world, pretty much everywhere but the U.S., everybody kisses hello and goodbye, right?
Right.
It's either the one kiss or the double kiss if you're French, or some other places go 3 times. But yeah, that was kind of funny for them to like retrain themselves not to kiss everybody.
Yeah, not kissing.
We're more like high fivers.
Yeah, fist bumps, shaking.
Yep, fist bump. Okay.
Fist bump, high fives. Yeah.
So where are they?
Yeah.
So where are they now?
Yeah. Where are they at now?
Yeah, I have. So my son graduated college last year. He's a software engineer, so he's working in New York City.
Wow.
Got a great job. And my daughter is graduating college in 2 months. So almost launched, almost off the payroll.
And what was her major in?
She is an environmental policy double major with history. So history, she just loves it. Environmental policy is what she's hoping for her career path in renewable energy.
So is that headed? She headed East Coast
like
for that?
She's like a save the world kid.
Okay.
Interesting.
She's been studying on the East Coast, as she would love to stay there, but she's open right now because she's just looking for the job.
So did they end up being skiers or more tropical sports?
Definitely more tropical. They both grew up as swimmers. My daughter got very serious about swimming for most of her career, although she stopped for college. And they dabble. It's I tried to get them to ski, but it was like this kind of a wishful fantasy I had that my brother and sister they have raised their kids skiing, and all the cousins would get together and ski. But the school schedules were different. They were always
That's
what I'm about to hit.
We go every couple years, and then my kids would complain, would be like, "We stink. We can't keep up with the cousins."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to hit, because I have one going off to college, and then I have one that's going into high school, and trying to figure out when are we going to take them skiing next year, because their winters are not going to line up.
Right.
And their spring breaks are definitely not going to line up. So just trying to figure that out. Navigating that's going to be difficult, to say the least.
Yeah.
So are they scuba divers? Is there scuba diving in Puerto Rico? Is that nice, or?
There is. They're not divers. They're not surfers. They just kind of like, swim, skateboard, hang out, little kite surfing, things like that.
Yeah.
So your family's a skier, but you're a skier. You came from a ski family. Where did y'all ski?
Well, I grew up on the East Coast, so we mostly would ski in Vermont, and then maybe every other year we do the big family vacation and go to Colorado. We, moved around and tried all the different resorts, whether it was Utah or Colorado. Now I'm very fortunate because my brother has a very nice house in Lake Tahoe. So if I still ski, I'll go visit him. They've had I'm dying because they've had like a record-breaking year this year, and I just have not had the time to get out there.
They've had let's dig out our house. Isn't that where they were showing the stuff where the top of the top of the ski lifts were over, just barely sticking out of the snow?
Yeah, it's crazy. The snowbanks have risen so high, and then the roof has like 7 feet of snow on it, so it's like enveloped completely.
Oh,
So we tried Taos this last spring, and it was interesting. Yeah,
it's a beautiful place.
Everybody's going, it's all blacks and blues. It's all blacks and blues, and I'm like, okay, I'm a little freaked out because I'm a green, decent blue. Definitely not a black skier. And so I was like, okay, I need someone to show me the mountain. But then when I went down some of the blues, they were more equivalent to some of the greens in Big Sky, Montana.
Yeah, I would say you're a blue skier.
Yeah.
You're a blue skier. You're just not a mogul skier yet.
Not a mogul, no.
And I bet a steep black you could handle because you can control yourself fine. But
it was interesting. But yeah, their blues were not as steep as like some of the blues I've done in Big Sky. Yeah.
It's interesting what ski resorts will do to get a mix. Their goal is to be able to show somebody who's going there a mix of green, blues,
blue, and black.
Yeah. And they're probably just relative to each other at that place, not between places. Yeah. Right. And
100%. There's no like rating scoring system. Right. It's always just relative to your own mountain pitch, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So at this mountain, this is the easy, this is the middle, this is the hard. And that could be it's all pretty easy, and that could be it's all pretty crazy.
Okay.
You'll hear people complain about Big Sky, about the how hard the blues are. These blues should be black. Okay. Different places, different stuff. So what a cool little romantic little life you've had. So
what brought you back into the States?
Let's my question. Back to the States.
Let's back to my question.
Well, this is my 18th year at Cardinal Health. So at some point, when I was still in Puerto Rico, I left J&J, and we actually started the business in Cardinal Health. Cardinal Health had no presence or footprint in Puerto Rico. So Cardinal has both a medical business, which is like medical consumables, as well as a pharmaceutical distribution business. And the medical division decided to start selling the products in Puerto Rico. So myself and a small team, I was tapped to kind of lead it. So I kind of built this little team, and we launched the business and kind of launched the name Cardinal Health in Puerto Rico. And we were doing that for about 2 years when Cardinal decided to make an acquisition in Puerto Rico to get into the drug wholesaling side of the business.
Okay.
So we bought Marsha Hospital Medical Supplies, which was a family-owned business. It was the #1 drug wholesaler on the island. And we did kind of a David and Goliath kind of merger. So we were just like a little, small footprint medical product distributor. And Borsha was, really the market leader. And been around a long time, very well known and very big for Puerto Rico. And we merged the entities together. And I learned the drug wholesaling business from the former owner, who stayed on for a couple of years. Was a great mentor and a great friend.
Nice.
And taught me all about retail, because all my healthcare career at that point had been in the hospital world. Puerto Rico is a fascinating market from a healthcare perspective. If it was a state, it would be, by far the poorest state in the country. You have a fairly unhealthy population with a high incidence of diabetes. You have about 60% of the people who live there are on some sort of public assistance. And the healthcare system is this weird hybrid of similar to the U.S., but unique for the U.S. So kind of in a nutshell, Medicare is very much the same as in the U.S., but Medicaid is run locally in a local scheme by the Puerto Rican government, and receives a block grant from the federal government for 50% funding. So that program runs very differently. Long story short, the government who runs that program has decided that that the big chain pharmacies would not participate.
Interesting.
And so retail independents have really thrived with a much bigger presence than in the U.S., where in the U.S. it's somewhere south of 20% of the market. It's still roughly around 50% of the market in Puerto Rico. So very different. And with that sort of sicker population that I mentioned a minute ago, it's just such an important dynamic for people taking care of their health. That relationship that we talk about all the time, between a pharmacist and their patients, that is very cultural as well. Having that kind of personal connection, and stopping by the pharmacy to see your friend the pharmacist, and them living in the neighborhood where you live or where you grew up. And even though it's a small island, there's still a lot of very rural, kind of secluded towns, which have difficult roads that, take you there. So these are not people who are going to, journey into the town or the city to go somewhere else. They really want to stay home and they want to stay local. So
do the patients rely on their pharmacist is more like we have a friend from Ireland, and when his pharmacist was going on vacation, his father was freaking out and going, "Oh my God, what am I going to do? My pharmacist is going on vacation," because they heavily rely on their pharmacy, because getting in to see a doctor is like minimum 6-month wait.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah. So
is that the same way in Puerto
So
Rico?
is that the same way in Puerto Rico?
Yes, 100%. And even the experience of going to your family physician or any kind of doctor in Puerto Rico is a lot less ideal than in the U.S. Like there's little to no, scheduling your appointment online. There's little to no scheduling. You pretty much just show up, first come, first serve. And you wait around all day to see a lot of doctors. So that, whatever kind of relationship you can have with a healthcare provider is really crucial.
Do pharmacists have the authority to prescribe down in Puerto Rico?
That's fairly limited. I would say that Puerto Rico has not been super progressive on that point. And the pharmacy board has a lot of control there. So they have not put in place any test to treat, or there is a little bit of testing, like, there's flu testing, there's strep testing, some of the CLIA wave things, and some of the stuff that's been around for quite a while has been adopted in Puerto Rico. But if it's anything that's a federal mandate would also, carry over to Puerto Rico because of the overall guidance of CMS also in Puerto Rico. But haven't been super progressive on that front. So it's really more about the relationship and some of the population health stuff. Outcomes is pretty people are there with MTM.
Oh, wow.
So.
All right, so in Puerto Rico, then now at the retailer. So how did you get to the States?
Okay, so we'll loop the kid story back into this, but there was a point in time where I'd already been running the Puerto Rico operation, which is, like I said, the wholesaling part of the business as well as the medical part of the business. So I had been the general manager of that business for a couple of years. And, Cardinal Health does an awesome job with succession planning and discussions around your career and your career mapping. And I had always had this discussion, like, do you want more? Do you want the next step? Because the next step for you is to move to the States and, take a US-based job. And I was interested in that, but I always said, well, there's this little window. It either has to happen, before my kids hit maybe 9th grade, 10th grade at the most, make the move then. Or, there's going to be a time where it's not a great time to move your kids in later years of high school, right? So there'll be like a little, freeze period. And so that had been sort of always the understanding with my leadership. And, sure enough, the opportunity arose exactly at the wrong time. Another career piece of advice, which is, nothing ever happens at the perfect time. You just have to make decision what your priority is. My kids were rising junior and rising senior in high school when the opportunity presented itself. And honestly, it was just such a fantastic opportunity for me to take the job as the president of the whole pharma distribution business that, I couldn't say no. So our family plan was for my husband and my kids to stay in Puerto Rico for those 2 years so they could finish high school.
Right.
And I would commute, let's say, not an easy commute. There's no way to get between Puerto Rico and Columbus in less than 2 planes. So 2 planes in about 7 hours. So not exactly something you just want to pop over for the weekend, but we figured, we would work it out. And so I moved on my own to Columbus and just rented a little apartment. And then 3 months later, big Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico. And that was a bit of a game changer.
Oh, wow.
Because my daughter actually decided to move to Columbus with me. So what was supposed to be basically just me doubling down on my job and my career, living by myself, turned into like me as kind of a single mom, not really single, but a mom alone with a very high maintenance kid who didn't have a driver's license yet. And she was a very serious swimmer. I mentioned that earlier. So she had 7 practices a week and swim meets every weekend. She had never stayed alone because she was kind of the baby and we pampered her a lot. So all of a sudden she was, figuring out her own transportation. She was, having to make friends so she could bum rides off of people. She was cooking her own meals. She was staying by herself once in a while. So she and I got very resourceful. She did get her driver's license, which was good. And she did that cultural switch we talked about, coming to the States and kind of leaving everything she knew behind. And then my husband and my son stayed in Puerto Rico and kind of toughed it out for his senior year of high school. So he actually lived for 6 months. Our house was not livable for about 6 months. So the two of them were a little bit of vagabonds going from family member to family member, whoever had power. My son actually went to Cardinal Health every day after school to do his college applications because he needed internet and we didn't have it at home.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of like it took a village kind of thing. And he made it through senior year. Then my husband and I used to swap places. So I would go to Puerto Rico if my son had like a fun senior year activity, and my husband would come to Ohio and like take my daughter to swim meets. We literally sometimes timed it so that he would pull up the car and I would be landing and I would take the car home and he would get on the plane.
Oh, goodness.
So that was a fun year. But it all kind of worked out because eventually the kids, kind of leave the house. And I didn't really want to make that, let this opportunity pass me by to take on this responsibility.
Wow. What a struggle, but I bet so much character building for those kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
That time, having to go through that kind of challenge with their parents by their side. Imagine there were times in that with you and your daughter that you wouldn't trade for anything.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, she just grew up so fast. She was so prepared to go to college because she had kind of done a similar thing where,
Yep.
Mhm.
she just uprooted herself and had to start over and be in a very different environment and
Well,
be
and
self-sufficient. So,
what a great success story too for your son to carry on and go, this was my journey getting into college is we didn't have
right.
power because we got hit by a hurricane.
Yeah.
And so I went to my mom's work because it was the only place that had internet.
I worry that too many of our kids
Don't have
grow up
enough
today
struggles like-
without a struggle.
right.
Yeah, your struggles are, you're made in your struggles,
Mhm.
not in your good
Yeah.
times. The characters formed in challenge, and I think too many of our kids don't have enough challenge
Nope.
today.
No, I absolutely agree with
Yeah.
that. That's like when
That's true.
when my son asked, "Hey mom, can you help me with this?" I'm like, "You know how to feed yourself? Then you know how to boil water. Go figure it out." Well,
Yeah,
you watch
it's
you'll
true.
watch gamers on YouTube. Go watch YouTube on how to boil water to make your mac and cheese. You're 14. Come on, get it together, kid. So no, it's absolutely I'm with Jeff. There's not enough hard times to help push our kids to go. You need to figure this out.
Yeah.
That was one of mine growing up is if I brought home like a bookshelf for my room and my dad tossed his keys at me. He goes, "You know where the drill is. Just make sure you put it up when you're done." I'm like, "Okay, thanks."
That's right. That's
Yep.
right. Well, it does come full circle because then once your kids are kind of launched and you barely hear from
Yeah.
them. I mean, we text a lot, but
Mhm.
like just to make sure the other one's kind of still alive. Then my son is working and he's super happy that he's financially self-sufficient. He's
Mhm.
independent, but he still calls me with the funniest little questions that to your point, he could certainly figure it
Yeah.
out for himself. But like
Especially
at the back of my head, I'm saying, he just wants to talk to me.
He just wants to
Yes.
talk, right?
Oh no, absolutely. Because I'll do that with my grandmother too. I'll call her and ask just like random questions that I know I can look up on a YouTube video or
Right.
a Food Network channel, but I know that she enjoys the conversation. And if I say, "Hey, do you have a recipe for this?" then I know she's going to enjoy diving into those cookbooks and coming up with about 6 different recipes for me. But so you are with Cardinal now. You've moved back to the States. You're back and forth between Puerto Rico.
How many years ago was that? You got to be the president of the wholesale distribution.
Yeah, that was coming up on 6 years ago.
Okay.
Okay.
That I had just full line, pharmaceutical distribution, marketing. It's all retail. It's all health systems. And yeah, as you well know, Jeff, we built the outcomes business over that time as
Right.
well. But really, we've been on kind of a strategic journey since early days in that
Mhm.
job. And it's really just a recognition around what are the things we need to do for our customers. We have a lot of solutions we've had for many, many years, at that point, let's say 3 years ago. We've had an inventory management tool for many years. We've
Yep.
run our PSAO for many years. We've layered on additional services around our PSAO. We started the whole, digital journey around outcomes, but we really started digging into, what are the things that retail independents at smaller regional chains, what do they need to do to maintain competitive? And we always looked at our pharmacy customers through 2 lenses. How can we help them with the business side of running their business?
Okay.
And how can we help them with the clinical side of running their business? And we're always launching new solutions that we think can get after one or the other of those.
Any other things coming up for
Yeah, so
Cardinal that you want to kind of
what
tease
else
us with?
What can we start teasing about?
Anything? I know we're having a big show this year. Hopefully, you have good attendance coming.
Well, we will have ours. You have yours in June,
Yep,
and we have our show in July. Our
Yep.
Always a
RBC will
great
be-
show.
Yeah, that'll be in Boston this year, so we're really excited.
I
We
am
haven't been
looking
to
forward to Boston.
in many years.
Yeah.
You'll just have to come to
So you have to
RBC.
come and see. Going to be something. Do we know who the entertainment's going to be this year?
We do, but I don't think it's public
Not
yet.
been
It's
public
coming
yet.
soon.
This will be a great.
there's
This
the
will be a great
teaser.
place to release it.
Yeah.
No, you
Nope.
won't get it out of me. It's
Oh,
not on the
no.
RBC. It's not on the RBC website. It's not coming out of me.
Uh-oh. She's well trained marketer there.
So somebody's standing
Okay.
over the camera going,
yeah,
No,
no,
don't say a thing.
Or like your little thing you do like this. No.
"No, that's what Cohen does to me."
Yeah.
That's what Cohen does to
Yeah, I think
us.
some of the best entertainment we've seen has been at Cardinal.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly Clarkson.
So every time we see a concert at one of the wholesaler shows, my nerdy little booty just decided to make a playlist out of it. So every time I see an artist, I'm like, and now we've got a concert series playlist. And so all those artists go onto the, it's a nice little
So it's
mix
all kind
up.
of blended in.
All
It
right.
is so
Yeah,
blended.
last year we had Sammy Hagar.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He was pretty
Yep.
He was
That's
pretty
right.
amazing. He literally did a retrospective of 5-6 decades of his career, which was great.
I just remember how excited all the little kids were with Kelly Clarkson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All the little girls.
She was probably, I'd say, like the most like current star we've had in many, many years. And we just happened to sign her right before she blew up on The
again,
Voice.
yeah.
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 And
Yeah, that was
so,
very timely.
Yeah, I don't think
So
anybody can get her now.
Yeah.
the only Cardinal show that I regrettably missed the entertainment because I was sick. So it's like I'd stand up and go, "Hi, how are you? It's great to meet you. Can I show you Pioneer?" And then at the end of it, I was like, "I just want to go to bed. Please just let me go to bed." And y'all had Fluffy
Oh, yeah. I bet that was so good.
in DC at the National Harbor. And I was like, I really want to see Fluffy, but I can't stand up. I just want to get my dinner and go to bed. But it's like, oh, I missed Fluffy. But maybe we can get Fluffy back.
Now we could be watching the website. See who's coming
I know.
next. Well, Debbie, I think we're
so
close
much.
to time.
Yes.
It's been a pleasure. What a wonderful life you've
you.
had, and
Well, we really, really appreciate the partnership we have with you. I mean, your base of customers are some of the most innovative, clinically speaking, and we really think that they're probably kind of the target-rich environment we need for this product to get out there into the hands of the kind of pharmacists who can do the most good with it with their patients.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So thank you for the partnership.
yeah. Thank you for your time today. It was a lot of fun, and
Thanks
we
for
look
joining
forward
us
to
today.
look forward to seeing you at the big show in Boston.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
See
Thanks,
that.
Debbie.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
Debbie.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for watching the Catalyst Pharmacy Podcast.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and follow us wherever you get your podcast.
Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts to help us reach more pharmacy professionals like you.